for the culture.
Yeah, so I'm a Florida boy, born and raised. Born in Miami, Jackson. Started my life there, then moved to Broward. Then I went to Tallahassee for college, and then went to med school and residency in New York. I lived there almost 10 years. Then I ended up in DC for some more medical training, Baltimore. And I moved back home about 5 years ago, and I've been here ever since. Been back at the crib.
Ain't nothing like home, huh?
Ain't nothing like home, man. I love it, man. Florida boy down to my bones.
What made you get into medical school? Because you went to college in Tallahassee. From there, what like, how did that start?
My mom brainwashed me.
What?
Parents. I have parents.
We was just talking about being from the Caribbean, man. Everybody know you got Caribbean parents. Like, you could be Bill Gates, but your parents would choose the doctor's son over Bill Gates.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
I'm not gonna lie, my parents been trying to say doctor, lawyer. It's either one of those
So
two.
either one of those, you're golden. So but I say that tongue in cheek, but I kind of mean that, man, because my mom was is a respiratory therapist.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
She always kind of emphasized that. It was always kind of in my environment, but I also have pretty bad asthma, and I used to go visit the doctor.
So do I.
Okay. So yeah.
I feel you.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we need to talk then. Not to get too medical, but because of that, I was always kind of in the whole healthcare arena, I guess. But growing up, I went through all the black boy phases too. I wanted to be a rapper, wanted to play ball, but I couldn't play ball. And then eventually, I got kicked out of school because I was in the magnet program.
Whoa.
It wasn't like I was a bad kid. I was just kind of like, goofy, you know what I mean? So I wasn't really paying attention. So I was in the magnet program, and when they kicked me out the program, I had to get out of school. So that kind of woke me up. And my senior year, I just kind of got focused, and so I want to be a doctor. And then now I'm here.
And do you practice where do you practice right now? Do you have your own practice?
Yes. So I'm a cardiologist. I'm a vascular cardiologist specifically. I used to work at Mount Sinai Medical Center in Miami Beach. And I used to teach at Columbia, so I was a professor there. And about 2 years ago, I said, I like, fuck this hospital bullshit. Fuck this academic bullshit. I'm gonna do my own thing. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Because
I know my parents have been in the medical field for years, so yeah, my dad's been in the same hospital for 15 years, and still, he's not a cardiologist at all, but kudos, because that's some smart shit right there. That's a lot of math. It's way over my head.
That's really not, but I decided that I wanted to be a business person, man, and I think I have a lot more respect for entrepreneurs now that I'm doing it. I mean,
for real?
We'll talk, because my whole life I was in an institution with supports. I was like, it's hard, but I knew it was structured. It was everything. Everything was kind of laid out for me. So it's a difference between overcoming structured goals and then making your own goals and getting there. That's a whole nother ball game. So entrepreneurs do that every day, and it's really humbled me, to be honest, because that shit ain't easy doing your own thing. But currently, my office is based in South Miami, and I do a lot of telemedicine now. I also work in a hospital, and basically I'm just trying to build a shit from the ground up. That's it.
And have you been around like a lot of corona patients, or have you been around any at all?
Yeah. I've been around the Rona. And so, I don't know how deep y'all want to get into it, but
really deep. We really want to go deep.
Pause that.
Pause.
Yeah, pause that.
I was gonna say pause.
Nah, man. But yeah, man. Let's go, because this is the biggest thing that's pause that too. I'm playing, but that happened in our entire lifetime, basically. Like think people are slowly starting to realize how big of a deal the COVID-19 pandemic is. And so it's basically changed everyone's lives, right? And I think one of the things that most people don't really understand is that things ain't going back to normal, yo. Like,
I was gonna say that.
it ain't no back to normal. It's a red app for that, right? And when people like kind of say jokingly, you know, before Corona, after Corona, that's really true. It's like really true, right? Remember there was before 9/11, after 9/11?
Yeah.
I already told you this is a bigger deal than 9/11. So, I mean, just on and it's not even close. You know, it's on a whole different scale. I mean, just think about how we're going to view the threat of contagion in the future. Like, our entire society is going to be set up to prevent any mass spread of a virus, right? And so, I think one thing that is going to fundamentally change is how we contain pathogens. And so mass use is going to be a part of everyday life. It may not be as widespread after we get a vaccine or somehow contain it, but it's always going to be there. And you'll see it routinely, like during flu season. I think during flu season, people are going to probably wear masks more routinely, for example. That's something we never did, but now I think people are going to do that. But that's just like Mike, that's like nothing, right? Now you want to talk about on a macro level, you're gonna have actual nations become destabilized because of this, right? It's causing an abrupt economic slowdown. A lot of countries are in a recession right now. We're in a recession, right?
Some people don't want to say that though.
Yeah,
it is what it is. I mean, some people didn't want to.
The reality of it.
I mean, you know, the economy retracted 4.8%. Last quarter, it is what it is, bro. A recession, it's recession. And I think people are afraid to call it that because of the stigma that's attached to it. But you know, like a duck talks like a duck.
It is duck. Yeah.
So it is what it is. But a lot of people are under the impression that a lot of the economy is going to come back, and it ain't, right? I think people just kind of are living with the notion that things going to go back to normal. And people are slowly starting to wake up and realize, like, oh, shit ain't going back to normal. I think it's going to hit people more. People are going to feel it more viscerally when the economy start to open up more. And so Miami, for example, is set to open up, I think, May 18th. And so
already?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
And we'll get back to that about the reopening of the economy. I have like some real unique thoughts on that.
Also, yeah, I got it. We got to talk about
Clark,
that.
Yeah, Clark got some stuff too.
Oh yeah, I would love to talk more about that. But like,
don't forget May 18th Haitian Day too.
So what?
May 18th Haitian Day too.
Oh, Haitian. Oh yeah, we got to talk about Haiti, man. Yeah. All right. But basically, like, you know, Carnival Cruise Line, that's one of our biggest economic drivers in the Miami area, right? Mm-hmm. A big part of the economy in Miami is dependent on cruise lines. And Carnival just cut their entire staff by like a half. So that's just an example of things that's just not going to come back. Because who the hell is going to take a cruise? Like, if somebody bought my mom
I'm not.
Hey, if somebody trying to buy my mom a cruise, I'm like, you trying to kill my mom?
I know, for real.
Like, I would be offended if you bought my mom a cruise. So I'm like, who the fuck is going on a cruise that's 65 and older or have any of the risk factors for the coronavirus? They're not. Like, if you're diabetic, obese, have COPD, moderate to severe asthma, if you have any of those risk factors, right, you're more likely to die, right? And I think that's kind of like is going to be our new norm. And certain industries can't deal with that drop off of a population. Like all of us could go back, we're going to be good, but then I think society, at least in the short term, is going to be oriented into protecting the vulnerable populations. That's just what's going to happen. And so the question is, how are we going to protect them? What portion of that population are we willing to lose? And the more we learn about the virus, the more we'll adjust our risk assessment of it. But like right now, we're starting to get more information on it. And then you kind of understand who's at risk and who isn't. and then people are adjusting their behaviors depending on that. And then I think on top of that, there's some long-term outcomes that we haven't seen because it's so new. So you might find out that even though you cleared the virus, it might cause some other thing that we didn't know. So these are all the things that we don't know, but things are shifting rapidly as hell. And
do you think that like more strains can come out of this one strain?
I'm not as worried about that. I think a lot of people are fearful of this thing mutating and creating a new strain, but that's unlikely depending on the mutation rate. Like it's relatively slow, like compared to HIV or the flu. It's like, you know, a fraction as quick, you know? So I'm not worried about that at all. What I'm more concerned about is, you know, just how it impacts different populations. And so the reason why Italy got hit so hard was because a large portion of their population was vulnerable to this virus. Mm-hmm. And what you'll find out is that in addition to Italy having an older population, like you might find out that that population might have a certain polymorphism or whatever that makes them more susceptible to acute respiratory distress syndrome from the coronavirus. Yeah. You're going to see that. Like, we're going to learn more about the virus, and we'll better be able to identify who's high risk and who isn't. But we already know, right? We already know, like, if you're diabetic, stay home. If you have hypertension, it's crazy because a lot of people fucking have hypertension. But I think what's more important is that a lot of people have uncontrolled hypertension. And I don't have the data to support this, but one of my theories, I guess, that's untested is whether or not people who don't just have hypertension, but who have uncontrolled hypertension are the ones that are dying at a higher clip. And I think that might be a mediating factor in why younger people might be dying from this when they're 30s or 40s. A lot of people in that age group have hypertension and they don't get it treated because they just refuse to take medication or they refuse to acknowledge it. And so I think that's kind of like the built-in disparities there, you know, because if you're white, you're more likely to go to a doctor and you're more likely to follow what the doctor says to you because you trust the system. You trust everything about the system. Like the doctor looks like you, probably your homie, right? So if you like your dog says, yo, take this medication, you're gonna listen. You know what I mean? So and you have access. I mean, it's for all the reasons. But you know, if you're black or brown or poor, right? It's you're not gonna have that same level of comfort or access. So that's just a real thing because a lot of people who do have access, they don't listen to what the doctor tells them. They're like, nah, you work for the system. You're trying to get me to take this medication, and next thing you know, fuck up my liver. Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, especially island people. We don't really like to believe into the system.
I'm one of those. Like, I get surgery and I walk out the next day. I don't have to stay a week. I don't have to stay 5 days. I'm okay in my bed. Hey, I haven't regretted it yet. I'm okay, but I'm just saying. I am that person.
You know your body, so there's like right, and I think it's all about your comfort with the healthcare system and your access to it. So that's when we talk about structural racism, like that's what we're talking about, right? Like that's kind of built into healthcare because the people that have the most issues with that system are Black people, people who are African American, right? And in particular, the ones who are descendants of slaves. Because, like, relatively speaking, island people don't have as much of a difficulty with the healthcare system as Black Americans do. And again, that's from the historical nature of how that group was treated and that legacy that's with them. And then you see somebody from the Caribbean or from Africa come over here and they'll have a better experience. So there's a lot of things that are built into the system, dog, that we don't really acknowledge. So that's what we're talking about. And unfortunately, a lot of the things that lead to people dying at a higher clip are things that are disproportionately in Black communities, but also Black and brown communities. And so that's one of the issues that we're finding with the coronavirus is disparities in deaths from the virus. So that's a whole nother subject. But to answer your original question, yes, I have taken care of COVID-19 patients or patients with SARS coronavirus 2. And I've taken care of them both in the outpatient setting, meaning in the clinic, in the community, but also have taken care of them in the context of the hospital. And basically, it's a real thing, and that's a whole nother thing I want to talk to y'all about is all of the fake news surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. It's like
what you call it, the fake Olympics?
Yeah, I call that shit the fake news Olympics. I make sure to say that every time. Oh, because it's crazy.
No, I believe it.
I mean, I bet you somebody on here watched the plandemic video.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Lisa said you sent it to everybody, right? I did.
And I bet you at least one of you believe that shit.
No.
Well, I don't want to say anything yet, but I don't believe it.
At least one of you believe that you did?
No, I didn't.
Oh, who believed it? You did?
Nobody, because we're
like the pandemic as far as what the news is saying and so forth, right?
No, I think he's talking about the video that Lisa sent us.
Yeah, did y'all like look at it and be like, wow, did y'all really believe what was said in that video?
No, I just think it's full of shit. It's just what we want to hear.
Oh, okay.
I feel like, I mean, I used to work for the UN once upon a time. So I feel like there's just so much that goes on that they don't tell us in general. And there's so much that they can't tell us because, I mean, think about it. It's like kind of like how I've told them before, like there's a UFO. They're not going to tell us that there's really aliens or UFOs or anything like that because we don't know as Americans how to act, you know? We're already like shooting each other, fighting each other over toilet paper. Like it's a new phenomenon that we've never had before from like caveman days and the Neanderthals. And here we are, you know, fighting over the smallest things. So I feel like, no, they're not going to tell us in reality what it is. They're probably putting people who died from coffins to go ahead and get money for insurance and saying that it's COVID-19 because then they collect extra money for that, you know. So I feel like there's a lot of negative stuff going on underneath that they're not telling people at the same time. So no, I just think it's bullshit.
Yeah, nah, you hit the nail on the head, man. Agreed, co-sign, sign and seal. But because I think you covered on some like very important points, meaning that like at the end of the day, like you can't communicate everything to a population. Like parents can't communicate everything to their children, right? And I'm not saying that the government's the parent and we're the children, but like you don't got to share everything with everybody at the end of the day. Like it is what it is, right? And so there's things that go on without our involvement that we don't have any idea of. And I think in the absence of information, people just make shit up. You know, they'll make some shit up and then it becomes a thing. I'm like, dog, like where'd you get that from? But I think, you know, like, and that the whole pandemic video was just I'm like, come on, like, whoa.
That went far left, huh?
Huh?
It went far left when you seen it.
Way off. But what I think people don't really understand from these videos and they're not really appreciating is that the reason why these videos are so effective is that they're speaking to something that people want to hear or they're addressing a need out there, right? And like the reason why someone like Lisa shares it with everybody is because it captivated you on some kind of a level. But at the end of the day, the fact that you shared it really accomplished the agenda of that video. Like,
of course.
What that video was for you to share it. And it was wildly successful in that regard. But separate and apart from that, it was a lot of misinformation in that video. And I think one of the things that they did was they figured out how to get your attention, one, but a lot of people who I know who are very intelligent believe that video. And I think one of the things that the video did was actually address like concerns that we have, like privacy concerns. And Lisa, you brought this up, like the government's doing shit under our nose that we don't even know about. You're like, Lisa, you know shit's popping off right now under our noses. I mean, you was at the UN, you said, or WHO? Oh, UN? Yeah, exactly. So listen, like once she's seen the sausage get made in the UN, so she knows like what's going on. And like in a time like this, you know, like some shit is popping off. Like there's no way it's not.
Well, the one
that, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I didn't want to cut you off. I just wanted to, like, the one thing that I see that's going on under our noses, and most people aren't going to read about it, is how they're kind of killing 2 to 3 birds with one stone. So I see, like, you know, of course, they're talking about the pandemic and so forth with COVID. So now they're, you know, they were talking about paper money and how they don't want to be on paper money anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then literally, like, while this whole thing is going on, in the stimulus package is actually talking about digital currency, which is crypto.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not only that, with the U.S. Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, he's the Secretary of the U.S. Treasury. He appointed the CVO of, I believe, Coinbase. You know Coinbase. You ever heard of Coinbase?
Yeah, it's an app kind of that allows you to exchange a different cryptocurrency.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And he appointed that person to oversee all of the banks. He appointed the CVO, the Chief Visionary Officer of that company, to oversee all the banks. So it's kind of crazy because when you actually read the stimulus package, it talks about digital asset, which is digital currency, so they need liquidity.
I mean,
I know a lot of people with the actual checks that still haven't even gotten theirs.
Yeah, but that's not anything like that. I just say you gotta be careful with how you frame things, because I notice how a lot of things get misinterpreted by individuals, and it's all about how they pitch it. So part of the CARES Act, they I think it was the CARES Act. Don't quote me on that, but it was something that was put in a piece of legislation. And a lot of people said, you know, the government's going to go around forcibly testing people for the coronavirus. And basically, it said nothing about forcing anybody to do anything. It was just basically providing mobile units to give people easy access to testing. And so that got flipped into the whole, like, government's going to come to your crib under the pretense of having to test you, and they're going to force you to do it. And while they're there, they're going to, you know, be able to find your guns and your weed. And they're going to lock you up, man. Like, this is what the government's doing. Like, nah, that's not what it's saying, yo. But, like, everything that you're saying, I mean, I haven't reviewed the legislation or any of that information, but you have to be able to interpret it, because at the end of the day, like, the banks have to evolve, right? Cryptocurrency is here, other forms of exchanges here, and we're in the midst of a pandemic. It is what it is. And so I think that, you know, you want to be able to understand the context of the legislation, why it was passed and how it was passed, and what the story was, because you framed it up for me, but I need to, you know, like, the reason why, like, I like to think of myself as a scientist is that I always investigate things before I accept it and propagate it. I have to be able to, you know, study up on that piece of information and then push it out. And a lot of people don't do that anymore at all. It's like they'll hear something and they're like, oh, shit.
And then they relay it.
Let me get it out.
Yeah, that's true. Yo, that's true.
Right? Hey, yo, so like, see, I like to talk shit, but, like, I'm human, yo. I make mistakes. And so my homeboy posted that, what's his name? Dave East got killed, right? Posted on his page, like, Dave East got killed, right? Right? And so it was Dave East's homie got killed, right? But I wanted to be the first to like share it, so I put it in my group chat. I was like, oh shit, like, you heard? It was like, nah, clown. Like, his homie got killed. You know what I'm saying? But I was so quick to want to perpetuate that information. Bernard is the first one to, like, let people know that I didn't vet the information myself. You understand? And so I didn't share it on a popular group or like on my page.
Well, they just recently did that with the president of China. They just did that. They said he died from brain surgery, and he really didn't die.
Of North Korea, right? No, they said he died from the coronavirus. But yeah, and then the New York Post, which is really a questionable news organization, posted that Kim Jong-un or whatever, the president of
Kim Jong-un, right?
Yeah, no, that's yeah, but they posted that, and a lot of people ran with it, and I was like, nah, because I knew about New York Post. And
I know. I was sitting there on Google like, you're joking. Someone sent it to me in a text too.
Yeah, my homie posted that on our group chat with New York Post. I was like, once I saw that, I was like, now let me look this up. I'm like, nah, like that shit's made up. But I vetted that shit off the rip. But like with the Dave East thing, when I posted that, I was like, I qualified it. I was like, can anybody verify this? And then, like, we all started, you know, investigating. And it was like, nah, this is fake news. So at the end of the day, like, that with a lot of misinformation, COVID-19 is a perfect environment for that. And so there's a lot of people sharing things that they hear, that somebody told them, and they think that the person that's giving them the information is a credible person. right? Like me, I shared the shit with Dave East, and I didn't vet it, right? And so, like I gotta humble myself because we're all susceptible to it. And so when I say a lot of people that I know are very intelligent, educated, share fake news with me all the time, I gotta realize that we're all human. And because I know healthcare, because I know medicine, I like to stay in the lane that I know most, so that I could kind of inform people. But again, we're all susceptible to it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's the way you phrase it. The headline sometimes is just it just catches your attention, and then you just want to look at it.
You can make anything sound like a conspiracy theory, man. The fact that big businesses and people who are wealthier got more from the stimulus package than pretty much anybody else, right? Like you could look at that empirically based on how the money was doled out and who benefited from it, right? That's easy. But as though they started the pandemic so they could do this. Like, nah, bro. Like America always been like that, dog. Like, the same shit happened in 08 with the crash of the economy.
And I know people that if they didn't do the direct deposit or whatever, they still haven't gotten their check.
Yeah, but listen, you're talking about the people, right? Like that's just a function of being at the bottom of society, right? Like,
oh yeah,
anybody that's functional has no problem getting their check, right? Just think about the things that you take for granted: having a bank account, filing your taxes. Like, if you filed your taxes and got your return direct deposit, you should be good. But that lets you know how many people are not like that. Like, that's something so fundamental, and that should let you know the scale of the catastrophe that this pandemic is having and going to have on that group of people.
I feel like in a sense, it's like a sense of control,
Was that?
You have a bank account, you get money. You don't have a bank account, you don't get anything.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think it's social control, because I still think that the government is giving money to people if they can find their address and mail it to them. Like, it just makes it a little bit more difficult. But what I think this is I just think that, things are evolving, society's moving along. And just like in every other decade, century, millennia, the people at the bottom get left behind. It is what it is, right? It is what it is.
Yeah, it's true.
It's been happening forever.
Yes, this is nothing new. And so when there's a war, when there's a famine, when there's a hurricane, when there's an earthquake, the people at the bottom die more. It's just a fact, So I think we're just kind of seeing that play out in front of our faces. And one of the other tertiary, like the first, second, third order effects of the pandemic could be how we engage in the political system as a result of it. Because there's like a lot of blatant shit going down in our face that we don't need a conspiracy theory for, So like, you really don't. Like, and I think
no, it's true.
On the made up stuff, I'm like, dog, like, yo, did you guys not look at the CARES package? Just look at that.
There was actually a lady who was on, I saw it on the internet. I think they were a Muslim family. And they actually...
I sent you that.
Was it you? I saw somebody else sent that to me too, and it was a Muslim family, remember? Yeah.
Yeah, here's the name of the act. It's called HR 6666 COVID-19 testing.
I was going to talk about that.
Yeah. They only have it in LA right now. And the family, I don't know if they're Muslim or not, but the family was like, why are you coming to my house at this time of night? And they had the cops there with guns and vests.
And the dog.
And the dog. And then you had another lady that looked like she's like the representative of the health department or whatever. And she's trying to, like, I guess she's like the icebreaker, because everybody's tense because the cops are in the house, the homes. And their job is really to make sure, I guess, if anyone coughs or anything like that, they're there to like like check up on them, make sure everything's good. Yeah, so I don't know how they found out, particularly they had the corona or whatever the case was, but they come to their house to check up on them. So did you hear about that, Bernard?
No. Did you vet that? Did you look into that a little bit more deeper than whatever?
So yeah, I seen the video. So I went into the Google and I went to go look at the bill. And there's a bill for that, but I don't know if that video is correct.
Yeah, see, there you go. See, that's it. Like, you didn't do your research, bro. That's not a scholarly level of research. You said I went to Google. If you ever submitted that assignment to me, man, I'm like, yo, I would like take your homework and like kick that shit out of here.
Yeah, it was on Congress though. It was on Congress Gov, the bill.
Yeah, nah. I mean, that's basically what I was mentioning earlier. That's the same thing I referenced earlier with the testing, and people kind of reframe it and becomes a conspiracy theory. Like, I didn't even watch that video, but I'm telling you that HR 66 or whatever, I don't even know what the actual.
It's HR 5093, and it's an act that was back in 2016.
And so this was done before the COVID-19 pandemic? Oh, and so what's that? So I thought it was something related to the COVID-19.
No, it's not related. It's just now that they're apparently,
I thought he said the CARES Act, though.
No, not the CARES Act.
Okay.
No, it's something different, and you basically seize and forfeit your assets based on whatever presumptions that they come to you with. So.
No, I thought he said it was part of the CARES Act. No.
Yeah, you should. No, I didn't know if it was part of the CARES Act or not, but
no, it's not.
It was some type. It's some type of act. Check. I think they call it the Trace Act. That's what it's called.
Well, what does that have to do with COVID-19 and being infected?
Because it was saying that COVID-19 was related to.
Well, no, they were basically using that law to seize and assess them because of COVID-19. So they basically used the bill incorrectly. And because normal citizens don't know the law, we wouldn't know whether they're incorrect or not.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
so I feel like it was more of like a misjudgment of the law.
That's just baseline racism, or implicit.
Well, the cops were white, and
that's just
in retrospect. So.
Well, I don't know. That's not much of a conspiracy theory. I mean, it's what it is. I mean, like after 9/11 was way worse.
No, I don't think that's conspiracy.
Like you don't need a conspiracy theory to look at how 9/11, how they did Muslims in 9/11. Like they had.
Oh yeah.
They had entire policies to screen Muslim people. Like if you look like you was from that area, like you was.
I've gotten it plenty of times, and I'm not even Muslim, so I completely feel for that.
It was so incredibly blatant and unnecessary. Like if that doesn't, like, you don't need a conspiracy theory for that, right? Like we all know statistically, you're more white. Yeah, you're more. You already see that. I went too quickly, but you're more likely to be terrorized by a white male, statistically, right, than a Muslim American or a Muslim speaking person. Period. I mean, I'm sorry, a Muslim believing person. Muslim speaking believing person. Or someone that speaks Arabic, right? Like I think, based on whatever perceived biases that we had, like not even to mention the cultural incompetencies that we have as a nation, but we blatantly discriminated against an entire group of people. It was bad.
But I feel like we still, with our current, how do I say this without being like politically incorrect either? Like I don't know. With Trump and everything going on, I feel like it still hasn't gotten any better than it was in 9/11 either.
No, it hasn't. But all I'm saying is it hasn't gotten any better. But what I was referring to was the fact that like our government, in the context of an emergency, like blatantly discriminated against a group of people. Like it was so bad. And then Trump comes in way after the fact and says, "I'm literally gonna ban travel from these nations."
Mm-hmm.
Like you're better off like banning travel from Texas, right, to cut down on terrorism than any of these countries. And the fact that like we don't ban travel from Saudi Arabia, right? Like we have like, they're an ally. Saudi Arabia is an ally. The U.S. lets you know whether or not you're genuine about that threat concern, and considering the composition of the people who crashed into the World Trade Center. Who they were from, a large portion of them were from Saudi Arabia, and they're our allies. And so it's not really about that threat. It was discriminatory at its base, and so I don't know. I think the fact that happened is not a surprise. I mean, the same reason why Black folks are disproportionately getting locked up for not respecting social distancing regulations. Like that's why is that any different? I don't need a conspiracy theory to tell you that. Anytime you say the police is in charge of this, niggas is gonna go to jail. Like I don't need a conspiracy theory to tell you that. So
Yeah.
And they're getting
What I
people are
noticed-
going to jail just for wearing a mask. And I mean, it's something that's inevitable. We all kind of have to wear it. There's even some signs on doors that say you cannot enter without a mask. And then you've got, you know, the security guard following around the black guy or the Spanish person or whoever, you know, person of color, just because they've got a mask on or because their pants are saggy or because, you know, but it's like, it's inevitable. We all have to wear masks right now. So now we're going to even stigmatize it any more so than we already have been, you know?
But yeah, exactly. But anytime the criminal justice system's involved and they got to enforce something, anytime a rule is passed, they over police black people, man. It is what it is. Like they come looking for that shit. Like everybody that smokes weed, everybody does drugs, right? You know, like white Americans do drugs more, just as much, if not more, than black and brown Americans, right? Just based on if you walked into a home, you'd be like, this percentage of the families are doing drugs. But black people go to jail at a higher clip. Why? Right? And it's because black people live in zip codes that are over policed, right? And then they have to deal with a lot of other implicit biases, but you got to start with the fact that police is always in those neighborhoods looking for something, right?
That's true.
Look at the dude with mask on, pants sagging. I know he up to something.
Oh yeah.
And you know,
you got a little weed in your pocket, right?
Oh, they automatically think that. It's crazy to me that they do that, and I've even like seen it, and then I have to like stop myself because I'm like, if you even say something or you start saying something, then they start having a rebuttal with you, and then no matter what, you don't win. So it's kind of like you say something, and then they're coming at you, and then it's like, well, shit, now I gotta shut up, and it's not even like
who's they?
Yeah,
no,
you gotta
like
keep
police and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like the cops.
Oh, the cop.
Yeah, like you say something and it's like to defend somebody or because they're wrong or anything like that. And it's like, well, now you're subjected to being a victim as well and getting arrested because you even tried to stick up for somebody. You know what I mean?
But the thing about it is, they're always gonna win that argument. And
always.
I think a lot of times, like we put cops in an impossible position because they gotta enforce bullshit ass laws. So like, you could have like a cool ass cop, right? Like they could be from your hood, whatever. So let's even like subtract the fact that, you know, you have to be indoctrinated to become a cop. Like it's like, you know, they're a gang, you know what I mean? Like
they are.
They're like they're a unit, right? They're like a squadron, right? Like when you go to war, that's your homies. That's like you killing niggas together if you're at war. So that's a whole nother level of gangdom. But they're tight as hell. So in order to become part of that brotherhood, or, you know, even if you're a woman cop, you're part of the brotherhood because it's part of the paternalistic organization. You have to, you know, contend with that, right? But let's say you get through that whole process, right? You're not indoctrinated at all, and you still have the mentality that you did before you became a cop, right? Pound for pound, you're still put in a position to lock niggas up, right?
Absolutely.
Because if you're in those neighborhoods, like your agenda is set to like, you know, catching people committing crime. So like, that's what you're doing. So you're gonna be looking at people that and calling them suspects, and then taking you know, basically checking them for something illegal.
What I noticed,
a lot of them have guns, a lot of them have drugs, and like laws disproportionately affect a certain group of people. So a lot of the social distancing regulations lead to black folks going to jail. So that's what I mean by that. My bad.
That's true.
Right,
and what I noticed too is like I just like study people. I look at people's names. That's how I know kind of like where people are from. That's how I ask you if you're from the islands like St. Thomas and so forth. But I'm not gonna get into that. So like I can look. Okay, so what I notice is when I look at the cops, I can tell they're not from this state. And I saw a video also on I think it was on Instagram or YouTube. It was on Instagram, and they were in the Bronx, right? And then they had a cop that came in, and he was real country, like he was from Alabama or something. And the guy was like, "You don't even belong here." He's like, "How are you gonna police us over here? You don't even know how to deal with us." Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm starting to notice is that, like, you get a lot of cops from these different states, and they don't know how to deal with us. But it's kind of like they come over here hunting. That's just to me. You know what I'm saying? In a way.
Well,
it's
I
like
know that like cops, when they get initiated, don't they have to pick and choose? You know, like it's wherever they're kind of not drafted like the NFL, but isn't it like wherever you're basically taken into? Like some cops will drive from Port St. Lucie all the way to Miami, you know, to work as a cop, or you've got cops that'll fly to Pennsylvania to go work because they can't get a job in this specific, you know, county or whatever. So I feel like that's kind of why we get some from different states, but I think that I don't think you have to know how to treat somebody in a specific area or a zone. I think you just need to know how to be around people in general, you know? So if you can't deal with Floridians, how are you going to deal with a New Yorker?
And then that's true too. And but what I'm saying, like I kind of saying it in a light way. It's like, you know, they know why they're coming to our neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like hunting, like, you know, kind of like they want the thrill. They want to do something. They don't want to be in their own hometown. It's like, yeah, we want a certain demographic to do it.
So
you know what I'm saying?
Straight up saying that like that there's racists who's coming out.
Yeah.
Just so they got
I don't think we're
like
hunted. I think that definitely specifically only to be after seeing that whole Ahmed thing, like I feel like that goes to that case specifically, but I don't think that is something. Does it happen? Absolutely. Am I saying it doesn't? No, but I don't think that's the case, and necessarily why cops in Florida are from different states, or why a cop, you know, from Florida is in New York right now, you know.
So what's crazy is that like I agree with both of y'all, yo. Like it's crazy because everything that Lisa said I agree with, and everything you said I understand and almost all agree with. Meaning because like it's hard not to think that way if you open up a history book, right? Like it's just
for culture.